My name is Gordon L. Scofield. I was born in Huron, South Dakota. My parents, my dad was a dentist, a graduate of Northwestern University. My mother had credentials from Oberlin University. My dad's family were farmers, and my mother's family were in the grain elevator business. Good parents, very good parents. They were both professionals, and they wanted their children. I had two brothers. There were 3 boys in the family. The other 2 were older than I was. I was the baby of the family. And the other 2 were very athletic and into everything that was athletic. I wasn't that. I had a tendency to like mechanical things, so I took things apart and I put things together, and my neighbors and other friends knew that I was pretty good at it, so if they had a problem with their mower or this or that, they would bring it to Gordon. In junior high, I opened a bicycle repair shop, and so I repaired bicycles. D. Smith was my home, and it wasn't very large. We used to say it was 1,000 people, but that may have been closer to 700, who knows. I began to be interested in automotive kinds of things, so I went to work for the local filling station and worked on cars there while I was a junior high also. My grandpa, my mother's father, brought his new Oldsmobile down to D. Smith. I was either 15 or maybe I could have been just barely 16, and he let me drive it. It had a hydromatic transmission, the first automatic transmission in a resale kind of a car like that. While I was out in that day, the news that we'd had the hit on Pearl Harbor came in over the radio in that car. And I knew right away that I would be drafted. So I decided what I wanted to do was get off to college and get in a year of college before I got drafted, so I'd be ahead of the veterans. So we looked into it, and we found that Purdue University had a term that started in March, but I wasn't to graduate from high school until May. So we talked to the teachers and the administration, and they arranged for me to work double time, and I was allowed to graduate and head for Purdue. Here's a kid that grew up in a little town. I knew everybody knew me, but I stuck it out there, and in the meantime I had taken a test, and they chose me to be one of the V-12, a college program for people who wanted to be officers in the Navy. And that was much better because now I was in a regiment. I had the same group of young people with me all the time, so I could make friendships. And I graduated from Purdue in about 3 years in 1946. I wanted to get back to South Dakota because I missed pheasant hunting and I missed everything else that was kind of South Dakota. And I got back to D. Smith and found they needed an instructor in mechanical engineering at South Dakota State University. And it was to teach mechanical drawing. And we had 2 mechanical drawings classrooms, and I stood there in the door of my classroom, which had the drafting tables, and this nice, attractive young lady started to come up the steps. My classroom was full, so I kicked a student out in order to make room for her and made the student go upstairs. At the end of the term, she and I started to date, and we eventually were married. We were married for 56 years at the time of her life's end. And she was something very special, and she is the inspiration in my entire life. I really, really was the luckiest guy in the world to have found her, and she felt the same because we both lived our dreams, and we both supported each other in our dreams. I wanted to get a master's degree, which they didn't have available for me, and I understood that the School of Mines in Missouri, Rolla, was a good school, and they said they'd like for me to be a graduate teaching assistant. While I was a teaching assistant, we got married, and so we finally decided maybe we would stay, and so we bought a house. We were happy. We had our children there. Our kids went to school, and Nancy and I basically, she worked at the School of Mines, get her bachelor's degree, and I just worked as an instructor but I was getting my master's degree. We both ended up getting those degrees, and then we moved because I could not grow in my job. And I went to a Society of Automotive Engineers meeting in Detroit because automobiles at that time were pretty special. It was exciting as the dickens, okay? And I was close to Detroit, and we were in Michigan, so again, I just simply got to be more involved with SAE. And as a result, I became very involved both in the St. Louis section of SAE, the Rolla section of student SAE, and I went all the way up to being president or chairman of the local section in St. Louis. And I became familiar, and they wanted me to work for them at the national level. So I did. They had me in the Engineers Council for Professional Development, which is the accreditation board for engineering all over the United States. There's a great future for automotive engineering, but it is not so much, in my view, in the hardware and physical thing as it is the interaction between engineering and people. Above all else, Michigan Tech turned out to be a wonderful program. I used to work for China Lake, and I worked a summer for General Electric and a summer for Douglas Aircraft, but in the process I learned what engineers do in industry and what I should do as a teacher. That was a wonderful experience. It gave me great experience in trying to provide leadership. Things went well, and at the end Nancy got her PH.D. and was the first one to do that in geology up there. About that time she fell and had a concussion as a result of, she was looking into volcanoes in Iceland and fell and had a concussion, and it caused some serious problems. She is buried at the National Cemetery. I was in World War II, and so she's there, and I visit her at least once a month. It's very difficult to imagine how inspirational she was to me, and still is. It's just been a wonderful life, very interesting life, lots of ups and downs, but all in all, how could I ask for it to have been better? Couldn't.